Ricky here with Breaking Your Barriers, and today is going to be absolutely explosive. I kid you not. And the reason I say that is because I've got a very special guest. Now, every person that I have on the channel is very special. Why? Because they're a local hero. Well, this local hero is from the land down under. And let me tell you first and foremost, she has quite a few books out there that have been bestsellers, and she's got one that's coming out in the very near future. This beautiful lady goes by the name of Sandy Davies. Okay, that's not it. I needed to write a book just to do her introduction. You think I'm kidding? Here it is. First off, she is one of the most bubbly, energetic, wonderful people you'll ever meet. In fact, I hope you catch the same disease, which is contagious joy. She has a ridiculous amount of joy, energy. She has empathy. She's absolutely humble. And the most important thing that we're going to bring to today's session is she is doing it out of love. Everything she does is out of love. Now, let me go and give you a background. She's an amazing advocate for women's health, especially removing the stigma of menopause. That's right, she's got her own product. She'll tell you, I'm telling you, you're going to go on a roller coaster today. It's going to be fun. She's got her own innovative product during this transition into menopause. She is an author after 50. And the reason I bring that up is because people think that, oh, it's too late for me. Not at all. And this is something that blew my mind. One of Oprah Winfrey's favorite guests, Dr. Trent, wrote the foreword for their up-and-coming book, along with our friends who are the co-authors of this book right here, The Power to Rise Above, which is by yours truly, Sandy Davies, as well as Deslynn J and Karen Gibson. So you're gonna love this book. I'm telling you, pre-order it, otherwise it'll be sold out. And I want you to also check out Deslynn as well as Karen's links after you see this interview with Sandy. Today you're going to be inspired. Today you're going to realize that you do have hope. You're going to realize that dreams and goals don't have a deadline. And probably the most important thing, you're going to be in love with this amazing guest of mine. She's something else. Without further ado, I want to introduce to you Sandy Davies.
G'day, Ricky. G'day, everyone. I'm so thrilled to be here and be talking about our Power to Rise Above book, and also the two women that Ricky and I absolutely adore, our two Hawaiian sisters, Karen and Des, as well, who so bravely shared their stories in the Power to Rise Above.
I know you have two books that are bestsellers. I'm going to go ahead and give the title so that our guests who are viewing this can order it. The two books are What It Really Takes to Succeed in Business and Sacred Promise. These are two #1 bestsellers on Amazon. So I want you to check it out. I know Karen and Des are literally, they're like, both of them are like my sisters. And I know Des has been a cheerleader, and you've been a cheerleader. Would you like to give us some background about how that played in your life and how awesome that was?
Yeah, Des and I, we absolutely love that here we are in adulthood and still can't suppress our inner cheerleader. And we love cheering each other on. And we even do goofy stuff with pom-poms and all sorts. And a lot of what I write about in The Power to Rise Above with the anti-bullying for me, in my experience when I was bullied at 13, the coach provided no support. The principal provided no support, even when my mom tried to intervene. And it wasn't until another high school coach came in and sorted out the bullying at the end of the year that things resolved. Sure. But what I learned in that process before the good coach came in and did right was that sometimes in life, you have to be your own coach, and you have to be your own champion, and you have to be your own cheerleader. And then from those lessons that you take from being your own champion and cheerleader and coach, you have to then send that out in waves out to the rest of the world, and then cheer others and champion others and coach others. And one of the things that I love then about bringing Des and Karen and I all together in this beautiful bow is Karen wrote a book, Mama's Gotta Let Go. how to let go without losing your sanity. She is the most amazing parenting coach. And just, I don't know, her tips for parenting actually, they translate to life in general. And one of the things I loved when this book came out is that she actually does a whole chapter on be your own cheerleader. And I don't know, I love that synchronicity of like-minded sisters all coming together and yeah, be your own cheerleader. Absolutely. And then cheer others. Don't forget to cheer others once you overcome your obstacles and adversities.
That is fantastic. And being your own cheerleader, guess what happens? When you uplift yourself, you're able to uplift others. And
Absolutely.
oh, that's
And
exactly what you're doing today. Exactly what you're doing today. That's fantastic. And she put it in the book. I'm gonna have to bug Karen. Karen, I need you to sign something for me.
Oh, she'll love it.
You moved to Australia from Kansas. So you literally uprooted, you went to a different country altogether. And the purpose behind me even bringing this up is to let people know that no matter who you are, where you come from, you can do it, just like
You
Sandy.
know, 110%, because growing up in small town Kansas, I had a lovely Midwestern upbringing, but I always had this little bit of space in my heart that just didn't quite fit there. And I wanted more. And I knew from when even I was in primary school that I wanted more. And yeah, so for anyone out there that is feeling, whether they're in an urban high rise in Brooklyn or whether they're in a small town somewhere, if you have that feeling that you want more and there's just something that's not quite fitting, you are not bound to where you were born. Live your dreams and take the leap, whether it's taking the leap in your own community or building a new community somewhere else. You can do it. And once you take that first step beyond that boundary of fear, all the rest is a cakewalk.
With regards to bullying, can you share with our audience what you went through and how you overcame bullying?
I was bullied so viciously at age 13. Um, Unfortunately, I was a little bit of an overachiever, and that raised a red flag to my bully. And then I actually stepped in when someone vulnerable from the intellectual disability class was bullied by this bully. And then it made me the person with the bullseye on her back for the rest of the year. And, it was so isolating and alienating because when this bully bullied one of the kids in the disability class, I was at the very back of the line of the lunch line, and not a single other kid spoke up. So there's me at the very back that speaks up and comes to her aid. And what I found through most of that bullying experience was that in that generation, everyone was too afraid to speak up. And I know there's so much curriculum now encouraging kids to use their voice and be active in anti-bullying. So through their actions, support the bullied to make sure that the bully knows that their behaviors aren't welcome. And I love that in curriculum. But that doesn't mean that some of us still don't experience bullying. And when we do, there's no one right fit. There are so many different avenues to sorting that out. And sometimes that is a new school or a new environment. Sometimes it's what I did, which was I just developed an iron rod for a backbone, and I stood high and I stood strong. And I had an older brother who was much older, and he was so adamant that I couldn't let those girls win by dropping to their level. And there were so many times I just wanted to use my fists to get out of that bullying environment. And I'm so thankful still to this day that I listened to my brother and I held my head high, and I found ways to evade them. Like instead of going to the showers after basketball practice, I'd hide my bag in the bleachers, and then I'd just tootle out after practice and get on my bike and go home and not have that bullying in the showers where there weren't any female staff, only the male coach that couldn't go to the locker room with us. Just find those ways to survive. But for me, in that particular environment, not striking back and holding my head high and riding it out was the secret to so much of my confidence and resilience for the rest of my life. Do you know, I honestly think that probably a lot of it was because I was happy. You know, so I was confident and I knew who I was and I was happy. And like a lot of my happiness and joy that just, bubbles out. I think I've always had that. And I've always had that ability to, even when we have heartbreak or sadness, and that depth of pain, there's still always a way just for happiness and joy to seep back in through the cracks. And when it does, we have to be able to embrace it. And I think that was probably the thing, because there were three main girl gang leaders and they were all miserable. And I think probably now looking back from an adult, I think the main gang leader probably had horrific domestic violence and probably actually direct abuse to her at home. Right. So she was just fighting out and striking back because she didn't know any other option out of her circumstance. But you don't understand that stuff as a kid. You just know that someone is pummeling on you and absolutely wailing you every chance they get, up and down the stairs when the teachers can't see, in the bathrooms. And probably the fact that I had stepped up and helped someone vulnerable probably made her even angrier, just because of her own, sometimes we do just have an absolute crap circumstance. And we in the end are the ones that are in charge of our choices and our behavior. But sometimes we just strike out in those other unacceptable ways till we find that way to take control of our destiny.
Wow. Absolutely fantastic. In my case, I became a bully.
Yeah.
I became a bully because I didn't know any other option out. But what's beautiful about what you do now is you knew who you were. I never did. I had to find who I was. So with you knowing who you were at such a beautiful young age, it gave you this resilience to continue forward and become who you are now. And I love that. You mentioned about your brother, which is a horrible loss.
Yeah. And, I don't think that we ever maybe totally overcome it, but we find a way to marry it so that it walks with us, and as we then carry on with our life, we find ways to, hopefully, for me, I know I just openly now speak about suicide, because losing my brother to suicide at 39, it was just such a tragedy and such a horrific loss. And the fact that he thought that was his only option, I just, and it all, in one way, not only the loss of my brother and then our journey and how it brought my mom out to Australia on an aged parent visa to live out the rest of her life with us. There's just so many things, I guess, that evolved from that tragedy. But one of the things that ties for me to the loss of my brother is the existence of Karen Gibson on this planet. And Karen was going to write about parenting battles in our upcoming book, The Power to Rise Above. And she meditated and she meditated and she meditated, and it didn't feel right. And oh my God, what she decided to write about was her failed suicide attempt at 28. And it was something she hadn't shared publicly. And she decided that in honor of her daughters and her family, she had to share that story. And so many other contributors, I thought, this is the reason why we had to do this book. This is the reason why we had to do this book. And then Karen came along and boom, dropped that chapter. And let me just read you
Please.
her final paragraph. My advice to anyone struggling is that sometimes during our darkest rainstorms, we are unaware of the brightest, most beautiful rainbow that will appear once the thunderous storm passes. I invite you to practice patience and trust that you are destined for an amazing journey filled with magical adventures. Believe that this too shall pass, and watch your life bloom with unexpected dreams that surpass your expectations. Her whole chapter is so powerful, and being brave enough to share about her attempted suicide, where she was literally seconds from passing when the EMTs arrived. It's just such a poignant reminder to us to breathe and give ourselves grace and give ourselves space when we are in that absolute moment of darkness. Because if we allow ourselves to just rest and sleep on it, tomorrow's a new day.
That's right. That's absolutely
right. I just so wish there would have been someone like Karen around to just wrap their arms around my brother and say, mate, this is just a blip, hang in there. And so I love what she has so bravely shared. And I just feel like our book is going to be a gift to so many people. There are going to be mothers, brothers, uncles, aunties that know someone that needs to read one of our stories, and they are going to gift the power to rise above to that person, and that person is going to either continue their rise or identify with something that one of us has written and find their spark and start their rise.
Now, the reason I even bring that up alongside with the bullying is because who you are today is based off of everything that you've gone through. The joys, the pains, the triumphs, the failures, everything you've gone through has made Sandy Davies this beautiful, amazing woman who I am speaking with. And with love, there has to be hate. With death, there has to be life. And everything that we speak about, especially when it comes to inspiring, there has to be some factor of pain in our own life.
Exactly.
And you've gone through so much, yet you have this wonderful bubbliness, positive energy, and just, I don't even think it's a word, but I'm going to say wonderfulness about you. So I have to put it out there because, like I told all of you listeners, this is going to be a roller coaster of wonderful emotions with this. I hate to use the word amazing, but she is amazing. So I have to say it. She's amazing. And there's so much more that we're going to be talking about. Now, before anything else, for you listening, please click on that link, pick up the book. If you know somebody who is going through any kind of pain in their life, and we all know that person, pass it along. It's not for any other reason than to help somebody else. Read the book. Two co-authors on here are amazing, Deslynn as well as Karen Gibson, and of course, Sandy Davies. Get the book. It'll be in the description, I promise you. Now, Sandy, now that you've gone past and haven't forgotten where you've come from, haven't forgotten the pains you've experienced, never will you forget your amazing brother. And we do wish all of us wish we had Karen in our life when we've considered doing something like that. I want to ask you on behalf of every one of our listeners, what did you need to do? What did you need to do to overcome the adversity you faced emotionally? Because sure, you're gonna have a breakdown.
Get up, keep going. And I know that sounds almost oversimplified, but it's not. It's just that thing of, that grief, it rips your heart out. But you just still have to get up. So in the deepest moments of despair, get up, force yourself into the shower, make that your celebration for the day. I had a shower. Or prepare your favorite meal. Hey, that is worthy. I've done something to nourish my soul. Just, do the little things, the micro steps that get you through that heartbreak, and just, I guess, and allow it too. Like, allow the heartbreak and the grief to flow over you like a waterfall. Because if you try to deny it, it will become a tidal wave. So allow it to flow over you, bring it with you on your journey, and then just keep getting up. And each day you will find yourself a little bit further down the stream and further down the stream. And I know, like, for me, with not just the loss of my brother, but then when we lost my mother 6 years ago,
Oh, wow.
we had moved her to far north Queensland with us. We had built and designed our house around her independence as she aged. So for us, because she was such an intimate part of our life, it was almost as difficult as losing a spouse. It was like our heart and our soul was just ripped from us. And, she was gone and we just felt empty. And the biggest thing was just keeping going. And the more you keep going, like I said, the further down the stream you get from that waterfall of grief. And then all of a sudden, one day, you wake up and you don't just cry with the memories, but you celebrate the memories, and you suddenly are laughing again about all the things that person did to bring you joy. And like with my brother, I actually, sometimes can hear him doing a bit of a cheeky laugh. And actually, give me 10 seconds, because
go for it.
6 feet from me, I have an amazing photo, and I'm just going to go and get it and show everybody. But then you go and have amazing photos like this that creep back into your life.
Oh, wow.
And all you can do is just laugh and remember the joy. Like for me, this photo, I wrote about this photo in Sacred Promise. And this was just so much joy for me when my brother moved away to the city, and he gave me a Native American Barbie and an African American Barbie and an Asian Barbie. Oh. And I was at that time in a little town that was actually truly all white. And the only Barbie dolls you could buy in the Duckwall store were white. And I wanted dolls like Sesame Street. Like, on Sesame Street, everybody was like, the Jesus loves the little children. We were all, all mixed together on Sesame Street. And then here I was in Kansas, and there was no one like Sesame Street. And then my brother, oh my God, he got me these dolls, and I had my own Sesame Street gang. Wow. And I absolutely loved it. So for me, actually, this picture here, I look back now and I don't feel sorrow that he's gone. I'm like, yeah, God, I was so lucky to have that awesome brother that put up with his kid sister and adored his kid sister for 39 years.
And he's still here with us.
Absolutely. That's the thing. Those people that we love, that loved us, that have passed, whether they've passed by tragedy or natural causes, the way they stay in our soul, and the way then their aura comes to us, they never go.
No. And you are that legacy that continues to live on for him, because of everything that he's done for you as a young girl, as a young sister. And he really took care of you. You could see it.
Yeah.
How important is love?
It's everything. It really is. And the thing, sometimes when we go down a tunnel where we're feeling, unloved or unworthy or unwanted, we forget then about the power of love. So not only just that even when we think that there's always someone that has love for us, whether we see it or not. We need to know that. But more importantly, love is everything. And instead of going down sometimes that tunnel that we do of, oh, poor me, get out there and love and share the love. Like if you are in a place where you are wallowing or you're feeling desperation, cast all that aside, put it to the back of your mind, and go out the door. Go and give your love to others, whether it's volunteering at a youth service or just saying good day to people on the street or becoming a part of a church or a part of a volunteer community. Go out and give love out. And all of a sudden, those things that you were wallowing in will begin to diminish. And all of a sudden, they'll be gone because you're just too busy loving and being happy.
Wow. You said you had simplified that advice. Believe me when I tell you this, I wanted to play the Rocky theme. When you said, get up, just get up. I want to play the Rocky theme, because when you get metaphorically knocked down, you have to do what? You have to get up.
Get up.
There's no other way. I mean, if you want to make it technical, well, you have to turn to the side and you need to be exactly 45 degrees. You need to put your elbow over here and then you put your wrist and you push your. You don't need all that. Just say, get up. So with
Yeah.
regards to going back to that, I had to go back to that because
Yeah.
it's
Well, and let me give you a little bit of get up then,
please,
because
yes.
in the book Courage and Confidence, I actually write about Dorothy Hamill. So you know how we were just talking about Barbie dolls and my brother bringing me these groovy Barbie dolls? I actually cut and dyed my Barbie doll's hair to make it brown and make it look like Dorothy Hamill. Because Dorothy
Nice.
Hamill back in the 70s, she was this amazing Olympic skater.
That's right.
Um, so I actually write, I'll just read a little bit of a paragraph beforehand where I had a bit of a crash on my roller skates. I sat there bloodied and bruised on the ground, wailing for my mother. And then it hit me. Being confident enough to roller skate too far meant whether I wanted the comfort of my mother or not, I skated myself into a position where I was the only one who could take care of me. Still whimpering, I picked myself up, gathered what pride I had left, and determinedly stood up to skate back home for band-aids. As I turned around, I saw my mother running up the street, arms open wide, ready to brush my tears away and make everything all better. Of course, I leapt, skates and all, into those welcoming arms of comfort, but the lesson had already been learned in the moment of rising up on my own. We all fall down. We all have moments of rejection. We all cry, but we determine our success in the moment of getting up. So then I have a quote. Everyone has to deal with tough times. A gold medal doesn't make you immune to that. A skater is used to falling down and getting up again. And that was from Dorothy Hamill in 1976 when she won the gold Olympic skating for the US. So when you too find yourself wailing, force yourself to get a solid sleep. After a good night's sleep, tomorrow is always brighter. Keep moving forward. Get up. You've got this. And I didn't realize that I'd written so prolifically about getting up in that book until I've just read it back to you now.
Awesome.
And you were never a horrible person. You were just doing horrible things because look at you now. Like, I love the difference that you make in the youth sector. Like so many of us, say, we wish we would, but we don't. Like you are love and action with everything you do. It's just amazing.
Love begets love. And this here, you and I together, was always going to happen no matter what. Your energy, my energy, our love for people, our love to serve was always going to be here on this day. I think it's it is the 22nd today. So 8/22/22.
Oh, it is too. I love it. Yeah.
Right? What was the lowest point in your life and what did you do to overcome it other than getting up? Because maybe you didn't know that at that time.
I've got to try to think about this. Well, so the lowest point in my life, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but for me it was at the time. The lowest point in my life was probably my junior year in college when I so badly wanted to continue my studies and go to graduate school and achieve a master's degree as part of my vision of what I wanted to do to give back to others. And I'd had my eye on a fellowship and I didn't receive it. And for me, it was such a low point because I came from a poor background. I knew I did not have the actual physical funds to be able to afford even, a small state graduate school. And I really just had this moment of thinking, this is it then. I've got to give up on these dreams and find something else. What am I going to do? And then I had a dear friend, back then there was no internet, a dear treasured friend, Robbie. He brought me this information and he said, do you know there's still another fellowship? There's this Rotary fellowship. Maybe you should look at it. And he photocopied it at the library, university library, and brought it to me. I applied against 24,000 students, and I made it through the first selection, and then the second selection, and then the next selection. And it was such a turning point the day that I was awarded that Rotary Fellowship to become an International Ambassador of Goodwill. And that's what brought me here to Australia. So even, sometimes in those lowest moments, we forget that, just like Karen wrote, there's always a rainbow. After a thunderstorm, there always comes a rainbow, and the light always returns. And boy, oh boy, did the light return for me in what I thought was my lowest moment. Wow, like dreams beyond expectation. And I guess too, like in telling that story, actually, I'm thinking back now to, for that fellowship, I was a poor kid. I was at uni, just barely scraping through. And I'm so thankful still to this day for all those rich ladies at the junior league that had a wardrobe for each season that would then donate their wardrobe to the junior league, because I was able to go to the junior league and pay what I could afford for the same kind of suits as all the fancy rich kids. So I walked into each one of those interviews, not that it should ever be about how you look, and you shouldn't have to try to be anything else. But there are sometimes in those business circles that thing where you still need to at least have your A game on.
Yes.
And that A game can mean being similar to your competitors. And I was able to walk in, in a wool designer skirt that was last season, but the interview panel didn't know it was last season. So don't ever have so much pride that you aren't willing to accept generosity from others who are in a different place to you.
Thank you for saying that, because with what you said at the end, ego and pride are the killers of progress.
Absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
And you, my dear, you hit on something that's so important for our listeners. Now, listeners, if you didn't hear that, Sandy wasn't born with a silver spoon. Sandy wasn't born with a copper spoon. Shoot, Sandy wasn't born with a plastic spoon, okay, in her mouth. She was born with this wooden popsicle stick that she used as a spoon. Let's just put it that way, okay? She was poor. And the reason I know that is because we were poor too. We had people donating to us from a third world country. That's how poor we were. So I understand where my sister's coming from. The importance behind me sharing this is because you do not have to have ridiculous funds. You do not have to have a ridiculous address, a different race. And I'm going to say that you don't have to be a certain race, a creed, religion, age. Sandy proved all of those myths wrong. She debunked all of them. So for those of you that doubt you can do it, listen
you
to
can
guest. Sandy,
you can do it.
You can. That's right. I have to ask on behalf of our listeners. They're probably saying, well, how did you do it? What did you do? How did you keep inspired? Who were your heroes? They're probably going to ask the typical stuff like that, which, ladies, friends, family, ladies and gentlemen, I understand. I'm asking the same thing. Sandy, what did you do? How did you break out, other than the fact that you won that amazing, amazing challenge?
You've got to believe in yourself, and you've got to back yourself. So once you know your truth and your dream and your vision, back yourself, believe in yourself, don't give up on it. And for me, probably one of the biggest things, so my mom at the age of 50, she had been my dad had come home from World War II. They were a typical post-war couple. She raised my brothers and me, and had never worked outside the home, which is what happened with those 1950s marriages. And then all of a sudden at 50, she had to be the sole provider for our family. My dad had fallen into a state of depression, and it was just left to her, and she didn't have a choice. It was sink or swim. And she found a way to swim. And some of the work that she had to do at the start was even almost a bit embarrassing for her and a bit humiliating for her, but it didn't matter. She kept going, because she had this fire light underneath her then at 50 that I can do this and I can be a provider for my family. And she just kept at it. And then someone saw the potential in her and invited her to be a part of a financial services team. She was one of the first women in Kansas to become a licensed financial securities agent. So she became this amazing glass ceiling breaker. And in the journey of that glass ceiling breaker in Kansas at age 14, you could drive with a full license because they wanted young kids to be able to drive the wheat trucks to the elevators was the purpose. But us town kids then benefited from it as well. So at 14, she would need a driver sometimes to drive to seminars and things, because she would be working all day and then I would drive with her. And in rural Kansas, you'd have to drive 2 or 3 hours, sometimes even 6 to 8 hours to get to like Denver, Kansas City, or Hutchinson or Wichita to go to a seminar. So I'd be the driver and then we'd get there and I would listen to these motivational speakers. And it was people back then like Tony Robbins, before he was big, you know, he would travel the whole world and go to little places like the Hutchinson Cosmosphere in the middle of Kansas. So it's people like Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, Stephen Covey, Louise Hay, Wayne Dyer. And I still to this day can't remember which one of them it was, but we were in the front row of one of them. And I think it was actually Zig Ziglar now. And he pointed to me like the little kid that was there on the front row. And he was like, if you let someone ruin your day, you've let them win. And, you know, it just stuck with me. That, and then one of the others actually recommended for habits for positive mindset that you cover your mirror with sticky notes.
Yes.
And then repeat them back to you for 14 or 21 days to film that or to form that habit. You know, and I did. Zig Ziglar, it's Zig, isn't it? And I felt so stupid in my mirror getting ready for school in the morning going, you are amazing. You have got this. No one else is going to ruin your day, you know, and reading my sticky notes. But I tell you what, you know, I think it worked. It was one of those building blocks that has just, you know, cemented my resilience from all the way back then. I took those messages to heart and applied them to my life. And it doesn't matter what age you are, find those messages, find the glue in those messages of what works for you, because it will be, you know, a conglomeration of multiple people's advice or whatever, multiple gurus' advice. Find the bits, grab the bits that work for you, and then make that a part of your journey.
Fantastic. So you use them in your own roadmap, because this is what's interesting. People think that once they hit a goal, done, park the car. Nope. That's why it's called a journey. Your journey doesn't end until you take that dirt nap. I hate to say it that way. Your journey doesn't end. Your book doesn't end. Your chapter doesn't end until you have it written on that headstone. And even then, you'll still have a legacy depending on what you put there. Like,
absolutely.
I'm going to put buried alive. No.
No. Well, so and on that note, then I should actually say as well, for anyone listening, if anyone wants to see a very unique way of choosing to celebrate someone's life, you can search on Google. Just go to Vimeo Leona Skelton. And that's my mom. Go Vimeo Leona Skelton Fireworks. And you'll find a video that was taken by one of the members of the Hilo Photography Club of the fireworks that were shot off containing my mother's ashes at Mapulua, one of the sacred places of refuge on the Big Island of Hawaii. And some of the pyrotechnic experts actually weighted her ashes in some of the fireworks so that they would actually, ashes would still come down and touch the coconut trees to keep then a connection of her spirit to us through that place. And I tell you what, I know it sounds quite unusual to disperse ashes via fireworks, but I guess my message is whatever works for you. Honor the people that have passed, and then do whatever works for you in honoring their desires. My mom wanted to be her ashes to be distributed from a place of elevation filled with joy and excitement. And we couldn't figure it out. We kept her ashes and kept her ashes. We're like, whatever, from a plane isn't really joy and excitement. Finally, I had this lady in her 70s say, "Oh, darling, who was it? It was Marilyn Monroe or someone that said, I'm going to go out by fireworks and champagne." And my mind just went, that's it. So we contacted the family that do all the pyrotechnics at the Hilton Hawaiian Village on Oahu and Waikiki. And they are actually based on the Big Island. And my dad had written love letters to my mom from Hilo during the war. So it was just an amazing thing to go back to a sacred place of refuge, because my mom loved the Polynesian concept of that place of refuge, that everyone deserves a second chance. And if you can just get through your obstacles and swim, through the sharks and the waves and land in that zone of peace, you can be given refuge. And so it all meant so much. But the biggest thing was, in that moment of the first firework leaving the cannon and exploding, we realized it was her gift to us, her desires for her ashes, because you can't escape the joy of fireworks. So in that moment of your deepest sorrow and grief, if it is mixed with a boom of joy and excitement, there is just some magical combination there that makes your grief journey so much easier as you progress through it.
You, my dear, as well as your mom, are going to live through ever for you. And the reason I say that is because you have been in the darkness. You've been encompassed by the shadow. You've been encompassed by the darkness. Rainbow came out after that crazy storm. And yet what's amazing is now you're that light of hope. You are the light of hope for people listening to this. You're the light of hope for the people around you. You're the light of hope for people who've experienced who you are. This is something that's going to be a legacy, because everything you've shared, you've put your emotion on your sleeve, and you've given so much in this interview. And I could talk with you for days. Kid you not. We'll need some coffee, but I can talk to you for days, my dear.
Well, I'm so glad that you had me on. And I love that you're talking now about hope. This is such a beautiful way to finish, because the whole reason of creating The Power to Rise Above, this is my loose author copy, it's in the printers right now. But the whole reason for creating The Power to Rise Above was to give hope. And there's so many diverse stories from so many diverse experiences. And the whole point was just that I wanted others to know that there's always hope and that they're never truly alone. And that was the whole purpose for the existence and rise of this book. And then now we have so many incredible people like Karen and Des, and it really is a gift back to anyone who's hurting, that never lose hope. There is always hope.
And that is how we do it. For you who are listening, never lose hope. I don't care what situation or craziness you're in right now. It's impermanent. Once again, the wheel is always either at the top or at the bottom, for sure, and it'll be at the top again. So don't lose hope. That being said, it was fantastic having you, Sandy. And I just want to say, with everything that you've shared with us, you've touched so many lives already. And all we do here on Hanging Out with Local Heroes is to touch one person at a time, influence or inspire one person at a time. And I believe in my heart, you're going to be inspiring thousands, if not millions. Is there anything that you'd like to leave for any of our beautiful listeners who need this extra nudge of love?
No, because I'm going to actually throw it back on you. So in the notes, when you put all the notes in, I actually want you to put the link to your Toastmasters winning speech, because I think we should leave with the phrase of, I don't care. Embody that I don't care. So as well as everything else, go and listen to Ricky's amazing international Toastmasters winning speech from a few years ago, and just, embody that I don't care message.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Nothing but love for you. And if you can't tell, this is my sister. You don't see the resemblance? We need to get you some glasses.
Yes, amen.
Thank you, Sandy. You're amazing.
It's been such a joy.